You see those videos online, right? The ones where a soldier comes home. They hide behind a door, or walk onto a football field. Their kid screams, runs, leaps into their arms, tears fall. Everyone watching feels that warm, happy glow. I used to watch them all the time, especially when my husband Mark was deployed. I'd imagine that moment for our daughter Lily. I pictured it so clearly. The cheering, the tears of joy, the perfect reunion. But sometimes life doesn't follow the script we write in our heads. Sometimes, the surprise takes a turn no one saw coming, and the reaction, it leaves everyone breathless, but not in the way you'd expect. This is the story of Mark's homecoming surprise, and how my little girl's reaction left a gymnasium full of people utterly stunned. Mark had been gone for what felt like forever. 18 long months. To a 6-year-old, that's a huge chunk of their life. Lily was only 4 when he left. She remembered him, of course. We looked at photos every night. We talked to him on video calls whenever the shaky connection allowed. But a picture, a voice on a screen, it's not the same as having your daddy there. It's not the same as his scratchy beard tickling your cheek, or his strong arms lifting you high. His absence carved a little hollow space in our lives. Lily was usually a bubbly, chatty little thing, but sometimes, especially at night, a sadness would creep into her eyes. "When is Daddy really coming home, Mommy?" she'd ask. Not the fuzzy image on the tablet, not the voice traveling thousands of miles, but really home, solid, real. Here, I tried my best to fill the gap. Extra bedtime stories, more hugs, silly dances in the kitchen. But I knew I couldn't replace him. I was Mommy, he was Daddy. 2 different equally important pieces of her world, and one piece had been missing for so long. Then finally, the email I'd been dreaming of arrived. Mark was coming home. Really coming home. Not just for a short leave, but for good this time. My heart soared. I read the words again and again, tears blurring the screen. He was safe. He was coming back to us. He told me his arrival date, but asked me to keep it a secret from Lily. He had an idea. A big idea. He wanted to surprise her at school. He'd seen those videos too, you see. He yearned for that moment. That cinematic reunion. That validation that after all the hardship, all the distance, he was still her hero. I hesitated for a moment. School, in front of everyone, Lily could be shy sometimes. But Mark was so excited, so hopeful. He pictured her little face lighting up, her running down the school hallway into his arms. How could I say no? It felt like we needed that perfect moment too. A way to erase the long, lonely months. So I agreed. I contacted her school principal, Mrs. Davis. She was wonderful. Totally supportive. We decided the upcoming school assembly for Veterans Day would be the perfect cover. Mark would be the special guest. The days leading up to it were a blur of barely contained excitement and nervous energy. I felt like I was holding on to the world's biggest secret. Every time Lily talked about Daddy, I had to bite my lip to keep from spilling it. "Soon, sweetie," I'd say, my voice hopefully sounding calm. "He'll be home very soon." The morning of the assembly arrived, crisp and clear. I dressed Lily in her favorite blue dress. She seemed happy, humming a little tune as she ate her breakfast, unaware of the monumental surprise waiting just hours away. My own stomach was doing flip-flops. Butterflies, more like pterodactyls. I kept checking my phone, coordinating with Mark, who was already on his way to the school, planning to hide in Mrs. Davis's office, until the right moment. We arrived at school. The gymnasium buzzed with the energy of hundreds of children. Parents lined the back walls. Banners celebrating veterans hung from the rafters. Lily skipped ahead, finding her spot with her first-grade class on the floor. I found a seat near the back, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a drum. The assembly began. There were songs, poems recited by nervous children, and a speech by Mrs. Davis about courage and sacrifice. My eyes kept darting towards the side door, the one leading to the offices. Where was he? Was everything going according to plan? Then Mrs. Davis stepped back up to the microphone. "Boys and girls," she began, her voice warm. "Today we have a very, very special guest. Someone who has served our country far away. Someone who has missed his family very much, and someone whose daughter is right here in this room. A hush fell over the gym. Children craned their necks, whispering excitedly. I could feel the anticipation building, thick and electric. My own breath hitched in my throat. This was it. Please join me in welcoming home Sergeant Mark Johnson, Mrs. Davis announced, beaming. The side door opened, and there he stood. My Mark, tall and proud in his uniform. His eyes scanned the crowd, searching for Lily. A wave of applause and cheers erupted from the parents and teachers. The children looked on, wide-eyed. Mark spotted her. I saw the exact moment his gaze locked onto our daughter, sitting cross-legged in her blue dress. A huge radiant smile spread across his face. It was a smile filled with 18 months of longing, 18 months of love kept waiting. He started walking towards her, his steps full of purpose. The crowd quieted down slightly, waiting for the magic moment. Everyone leaned forward. Cameras were raised. Teachers had tissues ready. This was the payoff. The scene everyone expected. The happy tears. The running hug. Mark reached the edge of the seated children. He crouched down, his smile never wavering. Lily Bug, he said, his voice thick with emotion, but loud enough for those nearby to hear. Daddy's home. And then, it happened. Or rather, it didn't happen. Lily looked up at him. Her eyes, usually sparkling with mischief, went wide. But not with joy. It looked more like confusion, or maybe fear. She didn't smile, she didn't jump up. She didn't say Daddy. She just stared. Her small body seemed to freeze. Her bottom lip started to tremble. Mark's smile faltered slightly. Hey princess, he tried again, his voice a little softer. It's me, Daddy. He held out his arms, ready for the embrace that was supposed to come. Lily flinched. She actually flinched back. Then she scrambled backwards, crab crawling away from him, putting distance between them. Her eyes darted around the gym, at all the faces watching her. She looked utterly terrified. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Whispers broke out. What's wrong? Why is she doing that? Mark's arms slowly lowered. The hopeful light in his eyes dimmed, replaced by a look of profound confusion and hurt. It broke my heart into a million pieces. He stayed crouched there, frozen, as his daughter backed away from him, as if he were a stranger. Or worse, something frightening. Then Lily did something that sealed the shock. She shook her head frantically, tears starting to stream down her face, and she whispered, loud enough for those closest to hear, including her stunned father. No, go away. Silence, utter complete stunned silence descended upon the gymnasium. You could have heard a pin drop. No one knew what to do, what to say. The perfect heartwarming reunion had shattered into confused, painful fragments right before our eyes. My own shock turned into a desperate need to fix this. I practically flew from my seat at the back, rushing towards the front. Teachers were already moving towards Lily, their faces etched with concern. Mrs. Davis looked mortified. I reached Lily just as Mark slowly stood up, his face pale, his shoulders slumped. The hero's welcome had turned into this. I knelt beside my daughter, pulling her trembling body close. Lily, honey, it's okay, I murmured, trying to shield her from the hundreds of pairs of eyes still glued to us. It's Daddy, he's home. She buried her face in my shoulder, sobbing now, loud, heartbreaking sobs. Make him go away, Mommy, she choked out between gasps. Please. Mark just stood there, rooted to the spot. He looked lost, devastated. The uniform that usually made him look so strong suddenly seemed heavy, like a burden. He took a step back, then another, looking utterly defeated. I wanted to run to him, to tell him it wasn't his fault, that Lily didn't mean it, but my first priority was my terrified child. Mrs. Davis quickly regained her composure, stepping towards the microphone. Okay, children, she said, her voice a little shaky but firm. Let's give a final round of applause for all our veterans. She tried to regain control, to move things along, to dissipate the heavy cloud of awkwardness and pain that hung in the air. Someone, maybe a teacher, gently guided Mark towards the side door he'd entered through just minutes before, his walk lacking the confident stride he'd had earlier. I scooped Lily up into my arms. She clung to me like a lifeline. I could feel her whole body shaking. Ignoring the stares and whispers, I carried her out of the gymnasium, my own tears blurring my vision. What had just happened? Why had Lily reacted like that? This wasn't my daughter. My daughter adored her daddy. She missed him terribly. What went wrong? We found Mark waiting just outside the gym, leaning against the wall, his head bowed. He looked up as we approached, his eyes filled with a pain so deep it made my own chest ache. "Mark," I started, but I didn't know what to say. He didn't look angry, just heartbroken. "She didn't know me, Sarah," he whispered, his voice rough. "Or she didn't want me." "No, Mark, that's not it," I insisted, shifting Lily, who was still crying softly, into my neck. "Something else is wrong." She was scared. Lily whimpered, burying her face deeper. We decided to go home immediately. The car ride was thick with unspoken questions and heavy emotions. Mark drove, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on the road. I sat in the back with Lily, murmuring soothing words, stroking her hair. She eventually cried herself into an exhausted sleep. Back home, the silence felt deafening. Mark changed out of his uniform, putting on jeans and a soft t-shirt. He sat on the edge of the sofa, staring blankly at the wall. I put Lily down for a nap in her room, surrounding her with her favorite stuffed animals. When I came back downstairs, Mark looked up at me. "What happened back there, Sarah?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "Was it the uniform? Was it the crowd? Did she forget me?" "I don't know," I admitted honestly, sinking onto the sofa beside him. "She hasn't forgotten you, Mark. Never. She talks about you constantly, looks at your picture every single night." We sat there, enveloped in confusion and sadness. The homecoming we dreamed of felt like a distant, impossible fantasy now. A couple of hours later, Lily woke up. She seemed calmer, her eyes puffy from crying. She padded softly into the living room, clutching her worn teddy bear, the one Mark had given her before he left. She saw Mark sitting there, now just Daddy in his regular clothes, not the soldier in the middle of a noisy gym. She paused in the doorway, looking at him cautiously. Mark held his breath. He didn't move, didn't speak. He just looked at her, his expression soft, waiting. Slowly, hesitantly, Lily walked towards him. She stopped a few feet away, clutching her bear tightly. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice small and uncertain. Mark's eyes filled with tears, but this time they looked different. Relief washed over his face. "Yeah, Lilybug," he said gently. "It's me." Lily took another small step, then another. She reached the sofa and stood right in front of him, looking up into his face. She reached out a tiny hand, and hesitantly touched his arm, as if checking he was real. Why were you there?" she asked, her brow furrowed. "At school?" Mark asked softly. "I wanted to surprise you. I wanted to come home." Lily's eyes filled with fresh tears, but she wasn't backing away this time. "But when you wear that," she pointed vaguely towards where his uniform lay folded, "you go away." And then it hit me, like a lightning bolt. It wasn't that she didn't recognize him. It wasn't that she didn't want him there. It was the context. The uniform. The big loud place. The feeling of an event. For her entire conscious memory of him leaving, he was in that uniform. Goodbyes happened with him dressed like that. Big emotional moments involving that uniform meant Daddy was leaving. She hadn't seen a soldier surprising his daughter. She'd seen the precursor to goodbye, magnified by 100 watching eyes. She wasn't rejecting him. She was reacting out of a deep-seated fear of losing him again. The surprise, meant to be joyful, had accidentally triggered her deepest anxiety. Mark seemed to understand at the same moment I did. His expression softened completely. "Oh baby girl," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. He gently reached out, not to grab her, but just placing his hand softly on her shoulder. "Daddy's not going away, not this time. I'm home now, for good." Lily looked from his face to my face, then back to his. Her little mind seemed to be processing this new information, separating the scary memory from the present reality. The fear in her eyes slowly started to recede, replaced by a dawning understanding. "For good," she repeated. The words barely a whisper. For good, Mark confirmed. His voice choked with emotion. He opened his arms slowly, tentatively. This time, Lily didn't hesitate. She didn't flinch or back away. With a little sob that sounded more like relief than sadness, she dropped her teddy bear and launched herself forward, wrapping her small arms tightly around his neck. Mark buried his face in her hair, holding her just as tightly. His whole body shook with silent sobs. Tears streamed down my own face as I watched them. This was it. This was the reunion. Not the loud public spectacle we had planned, but a quiet, tearful, incredibly precious moment right here on our living room sofa. It was messy, and complicated, and heartbreakingly real. They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other. Lily eventually pulled back slightly, looked him right in the eye, and gave him the biggest, brightest smile. "You're really home, Daddy," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "I'm really home, Lilybug," he answered, his own smile finally reaching his eyes again. The scene at the school gymnasium was shocking. Yes, it stunned everyone, but it also taught us something profound. Children process big emotions in complex ways. Sometimes grand gestures aren't what they need. Sometimes the noise and expectation can be overwhelming. Sometimes the deepest fears surface in the most unexpected ways. Mark's homecoming wasn't the perfect viral video moment we thought we wanted. It was raw, painful, and confusing. But the quiet reunion that followed, born from understanding and patience, was more meaningful than any staged surprise could ever be. It was a reminder that love isn't always loud cheers and picture-perfect embraces. Sometimes it's about weathering the unexpected storms together, understanding the fear beneath the surface, and finding your way back to each other, even when the path is complicated. Our family's real reunion wasn't for the crowd. It was just for us, and it was perfect in its imperfection. Thank you for listening to our story. If you were touched by Mark and Lily's journey, please give this video a thumbs up. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever experienced a moment that didn't go as planned, but turned out meaningful anyway? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more true stories, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Sharing this video helps us reach more listeners just like you. Thank you for being part of our community.